Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting for Bedford Township for April 20th, 2021 via video conferencing. Please stand for the pledge. United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, if Pastor Brenner Trepovich from Lewis Avenue Baptist could open us up in prayer.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate the invite, Greg, and the rest of you are going to go ahead and pray. Thank you, Lord, for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. Thank you for the men and women that lead our township, Lord, and are responsible for the welfare of our residents and our citizens, Lord. Thank you for this opportunity, and we just ask you that you please provide clarity to the discussion that's going to be had tonight, wisdom to decisions that are going to be made, Lord, and we ask that you grant us your favor upon us, each and every one of us, upon our township, upon our futures, and we ask that you please bless us here, Lord, bless our country, our leaders, Lord, local and statewide, Lord, and countrywide. We ask for your wisdom upon this time, that all that is said and done tonight, Lord, be edifying and purposeful for the future of our township. We thank you for your name. Amen.
Amen. Okay. Appreciate it, Trevor or Brennan. Have a great night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
At this time, I look for a motion for approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda is submitted.
Second.
Okay, motion supported by Ms. Janizek. Discussion. Okay, seeing none. Could you call the roll, please, Ms. Hirschberger?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Janizek?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Up next is the consent agenda. The agenda committee recommends to A, approve and place on file the minutes of the April 6, 2021 meeting of the regular meeting of the Bedford Township Board. B, accept and place on file the general savings, pooled funds, and CD reports from the treasurer. C, approve and place on file the revenue expense report and balance sheet for the period ending March 31st, 2021. I look for a motion.
I got a couple of things actually with the balance sheet. I like going through stuff last night and this evening before the meeting. There's a couple things. There's a couple new funds that appeared in the balance sheet that I was hoping someone, if anybody else knows and wants to speak to them, or I don't know if Bob's on the call. But about like the three new funds that are in is the Township Improvement Revolving Fund, the Local Community Stabilization, and the Cemetery Operating Fund. And then there's an issue with I think there's an issue with the bond interest in the sewer O&M. I don't know, is Bob on?
No, but I can get him to call in.
I don't know. So like, does anybody else aware of these new funds in here? Because I don't know if the Township Improvement Revolving Fund, if that is the same, or like how that's attached to the Capital Improvement Fund, and then I don't know anything about the Local Community Stabilization Fund.
Fund is the Capital Improvement Fund. That's what it's called. Because it'll go in and come out, so it's got to go into a revolving fund. Does that make sense?
So it goes into, which one does it go, like?
The revolving
that was
fund.
my question. So it goes into the revolving fund and then like annually, and then goes through capital improvement, through the plan in the general fund?
Correct. Once the money is, we know where we're going to use it, then it would go through there. But the revolving fund holds it because it revolves in and out.
Okay, I assumed that, but it was just like I wanted, and then, but I wasn't positive about that, and I wanted to see if that was accurate. And then do you know anything about like the local community stabilization fund?
That's an old fund. I don't know if Krista wants to speak to it.
That's money that we get from the state for personal properties and stuff that comes in that weren't paid when they should have been paid. It was put into the general fund. And talking with Bob, we decided to separate it because it kept getting mixed up with the Metro Act funds. And the Metro Act funds and the local community stabilization funds are two separate things, and they can be used not towards the Metro Act funds and vice versa. So that's why we separated them.
That's Bob on hold if you want to let him in, George.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yep, hi, this is Bob. I was asked to call in.
Yeah,
Yep.
Craig had some questions.
Can you explain what the township improvement revolving fund and how that's correlated with the township improvement plan fund that's in the general fund?
Yeah,
So-
the new revolving fund, that is a fund, a standalone by itself.
So
The one in the general
there's
fund.
So there's $75,000 in each fund or a department for the capital improvement plan fund, and then the separate fund for township improvement revolving. Are those two separate $75,000 chunks, or are they one and the same?
Yeah, I think it's one and the same, where it's transferring from the general fund to the, I think it's Fund 446, the Capital Improvement Revolving Fund.
Okay. And so that is how that's rolling. And then Krista was just explaining the community stabilization fund, established fund, or like that was just something that was like.
We created that one separate so that way there wasn't confusion between the local community stabilization money and the Metro Act monies. Because in years past, there was a lot of confusion between the two different funds. They were not being allocated properly.
So that wasn't a fund that already existed.
Correct. The local community stabilization one was just created. I'm correct in saying that, right, Bob?
That one I'd have to check on. I'm not
246?
familiar with that one right off the top of my head without any notes.
That one, all the money kept getting put into the Metro funds, which didn't work for everyone because everyone thought we had so much Metro funds, which can be spent one way. Local stabilization cannot be spent the same way as Metro funds. So to put them in two separate funding categories is the best way to keep them separated, so we're not spending local stabilization funds thinking they're Metro funds. Does that make sense? It just made sense to make the two so we're not spending money incorrectly.
Yes. I guess my question is that fund did not already exist? It was just created.
Correct, because it was all being put in under Metro, and then when it went to get used, we would say, okay, this can only be used for this because this came under stabilization, not Metro. And it was too hard to keep track of it. So just having a stabilization account made more sense to keep them separate.
All right, you good, Craig?
I don't
Why don't
feel
you give Bob a call tomorrow?
I
You guys can.
I don't feel very comfortable having funds created outside of this board, but I think that's separate. Bob,
It's just more of a line item, Craig, than a new fund being created. The fund already existed, but we didn't show it separated out. Now it's showing separated out. Does that make more sense? So we've been getting stabilization money, but it's always been lumped under Metro funds.
So was that stabilization money spent under Metro funds?
No,
Okay.
that was the part that was being
Okay.
difficult, is we thought people would look at that and go, oh, we have this much Metro funds, when it
Well, hey,
wasn't. Part of that was
Let's
stabilization.
take a vote. We've got to get moving through this meeting. We got a ton of stuff, so let's keep this moving. Craig, you can call Bob tomorrow, and I mean, if there's something more you want to talk about, but let's call the roll.
Well, I mean, that's what I want to, before I vote on something, I want to make sure that it's,
I mean, is there any
I know
more that we could
stuff
say on
that-
it, though? I don't think there's,
well, I mean, I think we have to look at, I'll give Bob a call tomorrow. I think that our bond interest in the sewer O&M is a little goofed, but we can go ahead and we can, it was messed up. I think it was messed up last month too. So I think we can move ahead, but.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
let's call the roll, please.
Did we have a motion? I didn't hear who made
There
the
was a
motion. I didn't
I
think
thought
so.
we had a motion and a support. I
No,
look for a
no,
motion.
Craig asked questions first.
I look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve it as presented.
Support.
Second.
Okay, motion support of Mr. Bruning. Discussion. Any more? Could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Ms. Janadisek?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
You're muted, Rick.
Yep, I was trying to get my mouse over there high.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Perrone?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item, public comments to the public limited to 5 minutes for board agenda items only. Okay. Good evening. Go ahead and state your name and address and go ahead with your public comment.
Hello, this is Brian Treese at 7247 Queen Canyon Drive. Regarding agenda item 8H about auditing services, I have a few questions about potential conflicts of interest. Daniel Clark, who lives in Bedford, is Raymond's the auditor for Bedford. Clark is the sole individual named on the first page of Raymond's original service bid on April 27th, 2020. Clark later presented the results of the audit report during the township meeting on March 16th, 2021. And Clark also worked for Paul Perrone on his 2020 election campaign, signing off on his finances. So that is, Clark was auditing Supervisor Perrone at the same time he was managing candidate Perrone's campaign finances, with Paul Perrone providing payments on each of those, well, not providing, approving payments for each of those roles. So my questions are, when did Daniel Clark first start working for Perrone's election campaigns, and for how long? Perrone's campaign filings indicate that Clark served as Perrone's treasurer at least since 2019, and that Clark also served on treasurer of the PAC for Paul Perrone. Raymond Robinson itself is listed on the first page of the candidate cover page that Perrone filed. So how much was Clark paid to work on the campaign? What were those dates? And then how long have they worked and served together as board members also of the Bedford Community Foundation, where Perrone is currently the VP and Clark is a trustee? Let's see, Clark is actually still listed on Perrone's campaign website, voteforperrone.com. And then last May 19th, 2020, during that board meeting, neither offered any indication of knowing each other when Raymond / Clark bid for the audit job. You can refer to the audio recording from that meeting. Were Perrone or Clark required to disclose their multiple relationships at that time, or when first considering that bid, or later when presenting the audit report? So are there any other personal, professional, and political type relationships between the two that have not yet been disclosed? And I can point the board and the public to a section in the Raymond contract titled Independence. And so was that contract itself possibly breached to any of these conflicts of interest? Finally, I'll point out that Clark was also financially supported and worked on T.C. Clements' past election campaigns. Neither Clark or T.C. disclosed this relationship prior to or during that May 2020 meeting when the board voted to hire Raymond and Clark. So the same questions: how much did Clark donate to T.C. Clements' past election campaigns? When did Clark first working for Clements? How much was Clark paid to work on Clements' campaigns, and when were the dates of those payments? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night. Next caller. Good evening. Go ahead and state your name and address and go with your comment.
Hi, this is Lamar Frederick, 3254 Deer Creek Drive. This is Lamar Frederick, 3254
Yep.
Deer Creek Drive in Lambertville. And I just have a very short comment. Tonight, you will be making a series of decisions. For example, if you look on your agenda on 7A, 8H, and 8I, please look at those decisions when you're looking tonight to make a decision, to look at a big picture involving these three collectively and not each one of these in isolation, and particularly 7H, which is, I guess, Mr. Montrey's
George, do we need to call IT right, or have you figured out what's frozen up? Okay. Go ahead and let the next caller in, please. Sorry about that to the viewers. We're having some technical difficulties here. Go ahead. Good evening. State your name and address and go with your comment.
Yes, this is Jody Rector from the Planning and Zoning Department. And I was just calling in regarding items 8 and of course D. I would like the board to take into consideration the succession of the administrative assistant to the planning coordinator. But I was actually just calling in to give the board an update on 8E regarding the transition of Katrina Ingram in the planning department as a part-time employee. I just wrote a quick memo I would like to read real quickly to the board. I'm respectfully asking the board to take into consideration transitioning Katrina Ingram from a part-time position to a full-time employee in the planning department. She has been working very hard in the department, learning ordinance requirements, zoning districts, and permitted uses, review and approval process for site plans, just to name a few. Katrina has also been working on research for proposed ordinance amendments and the required process going through the township. She has taken advantage of online training, not only through the MTA, but also utilizing Michigan Planning Association, taking an online course in site plan review. I will ensure that Katrina continues to utilize the online training. The Planning Department also handles submittals for variances and information provided to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and she is learning the application process, requirements for public hearing, notices, and required information for a request. In working with training Katrina, I have learned she is self-motivated and will take initiative to do what is required to research and find answers for residents in our community. She is eager to learn the department, and she has been really doing an amazing job. So I would appreciate the board's consideration on that item. Thank you. Have a good
Thank you
evening.
for your comments. We appreciate it. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Good evening. Go ahead and state your name and address and go with your comment.
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. I hope Lamar calls back in because we didn't get to hear him. Okay, back down. Start the clock now. 7A, planning. Yet again, our supervisor has failed to offer the position to those who were seriously interested in the position by applying from the onset. Nothing against Mr. Smith, but if he really wanted the job, he would have applied versus being recruited. And with Karen having retired, we need township level experience on this board. Kudos to Trudy for thinning the apps. 7B, the 2011 project of the Heights included Whitman Drive and Howard. Howard is also paved. Were they a part of that road portion? And Lawrence wasn't also listed, and they are also in the Heights, and that road's not really in good shape at all. I did area, and there are some fine fissure cracks at the manhole covers. So I guess it would be okay to take some caulk and fill it in. 8B, sorry folks, but this is just wrong. This whole request through the BZA was approved, but it really fails to meet the underlying issues that are normally considered, that no variance should be given if it lacks a hardship or it provides for a profit. That decision and those decisions have been given to other Bedford residents. 8C, I believe that we should hear from the advisory board. Do they have a preference? There has been precedence to use local firms irregardless of price. And I noted that there's a form that asks for familial disclosure. Do we do this with all bids? I didn't see it in the fire department packet. If not, maybe we should, and go ahead and add church and campaign contributors to that as well. 8D and 8E, these appointments need to be approved. Ms. Hirschberger is to be commended for the qualified and professional oversight of this department. Using the words of the supervisor during the budget talks, this is how you do it. More departments need this type of oversight versus using temps and seasonal on a routine basis. 8F, again, precedence has been given to local versus price. The owner of Bedford Machinery is a long-time resident. Are any of the other ones residents? 8G, I know that Whiteford gave a set amount, and no matter what, they're not going to give $1 more. Due to the limited number of Whiteford residents that use that road, unlike Bedford, given the new Decker subdivision that's going to be going up there. So I have concern with the word, quote-unquote, probable cost. And who is the road commission using for their engineering firm? 8H, the pleasure of the finance manager and the clerk's department. Let's bid sucker out. 8I, we can all attest this policy is needed. No longer can it be expected that all elected will perform their duties with a degree of ethical conduct. The voters cannot afford to allow our local government to come under the reign of a dictatorship influenced by political payback or lacking in the separation of church and state. So to providing the best look at the big picture, consider long-term effects, and close the loopholes to ensure that those who are helping to write the history get it right. 8J, our maintenance department has a ton of talent, but skills in pie eating, I'm not real certain that this qualifies, but that's okay. We can go with the flow on this one. Per the supervisor, this person was also supposed to be at the front door for COVID duty, but never showed. And I would have been far more impressed if his evaluation was given by the maintenance department versus Mr. Pryor. We do need, and we must, get a full-time union person back on that crew. They deserve to have a foundation, a core group of people to work, not just summers, not just in the parks, not just in the township, and not just in snow removal, but for the overall well-being of the township, its buildings, and its grounds. And I believe, folks, that that's it. It's just my opinion, and who am I? Thanks. You have a great night. I'm
Thank
going to
you
stand
so
by
much
and
for your
watch.
comments. Have a great night.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thank you. Mr. Frederick had his comment. Mr. Frederick had his comment. He's got a comment at the end of the meeting. Moving on, George. Okay, moving on to 6A. Approval of bid for fire alarm system for fire station number 2. Chief, you on?
Yes, sir. Good evening. This is part of the grant that was awarded.
Hold on, Chief. Can you end the other caller, George, so we can hear the chief?
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Hearing feedback. Thank you.
So 6A and 6B, this is the fire alarm system for Station 2 and the fire suppression system for Station 2. Mr. Jacobs is on it in case there are any questions, but Steel Gray Turner was a low bid for the alarm system. The alarm system work can begin relatively quickly. As far as the suppression system goes, which is going to be 6B, we want to get the, if we get approval tonight, we want to get the material ordered. There's a long lead time thanks to some COVID-related issues. So we want to get at least get the material coming. We know that we're likely to have some more work, some demolition work, and some other things included in that. But both of these are covered under that grant. If you'll recall, that grant was roughly $98,000, 10% of the cost, or about $9,800 is going to be out of our budget. The rest is covered by our Assistance to Firefighters grant.
Okay, any comments from members? Mr. Monchai?
Yeah, Chief, just for clarification, I felt like I understood you, and then I was like, I feel like I'm confused. So this would be between these two projects, roughly 10 grand out of our budget. The rest would come out of the grant. You had said something in the email that you sent out about it being budgeted, but it was like budgeted for next fiscal. Is that like, just to clarify, is that, and it, because you just said, I didn't know if you were planning on doing this after but you just said, obviously you want to get things rolling. So.
Sure. So we can use the grant money was awarded. It was initially awarded for 12 months from the acceptance date, but they've extended that out because of the material problems that we're having. So it wasn't budgeted with this budget year because we didn't get the grant until we were already through it. We would either come in for an amendment to this budget if the work is done earlier, but assuming that the work's not going to be completed until this summer, we've included it with next year's budget for approval. Either way, the amount's the same. The amount we're getting from the government is the same, and it's sufficient to complete the project.
So that question was like, so are you, if you had to guess, obviously I'm not trying to hold you to that, but like that the work done because of the layover, that's why you were saying that we're going to be making that adjustment for the next fiscal.
Yeah, we've budgeted for it in the next fiscal year. I wouldn't anticipate getting anything done and seeing the invoicing or anything early. But if we would just move it up, look for a budget adjustment. If we had approval, we would just adjust this year's budget and include the grant amount in it. So the revenue would increase as well as the expenditures for the.
Okay.
For the project.
I understand it. That makes a lot more sense. Thank you.
Mr. Steiner? You're muted, Mr. Steiner.
Try it again there. Chief, I always look at quotes and bids coming through on a regular basis. And when I see something that is a drastic variance in price, for example, here we're talking about awarding $10,000 versus two bids at a little over $21,000. I always just look at it and say, great if we can get that low bid, but are we just 100% sure that everything is there that's required and needed from this company?
I would probably defer to Mr. Jacobs on that. I believe that he had said that he had worked on projects with Steelgrave in the past and was very comfortable with them. But Mr. Jacobs, are you on?
I am. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Steiner, the investigation that I did into that, there was some minor scope differences as far as numbers of fixtures between all three bidders. They each had provided a kind of a breakdown of the components that they were proposing, and that's a result of the interpretation of the code as each one of them looked at the compliance for that. In looking at that, Steelgrave had primarily a difference in strobe lights for the notification system within the building, and if those are ultimately required, he's agreeing that he would put those in as part of his bid, and that was the primary difference between them. And then that would be actually finalized when the fire marshal and the building inspector conduct their review of the plans for permit that the contractors are responsible for preparing, which is a normal circumstance for fire and fire suppression and fire alarm systems. The contractors that consequently are being suggested as for recommendation this evening were both contractors that performed at Fire Station 1 for the same scopes of work, and both were completed the tasks that they were required over there and completed them within their budgets. I asked several times to Steelgrave if he was comfortable with his bid and felt that he'd be able to comply with the full requirements, and he was. And I've seen this kind of a difference in the past on projects that he's been involved in. He had some explanations of possibilities, but they aren't anything I can put my finger on.
There's probably travel time in there too with the distance of the different suppliers.
Yeah, one suggestion that he had that could ultimately be the difference is, in his case, he's buying the equipment from a vendor that would prepare for the permit drawings and handle the permitting process for him. That's similar to the other two companies, but his staff would be doing the install, and his labor rates are half of what the rates are that are charged by the companies, is what he had suggested may be part of the equation as well.
Okay. That explains it.
Okay, I look for a motion on 6A.
I'll make the motion that we accept the bid proposal from Steelgrave Turner Electric in the amount of $10,120 for the fire alarm system as presented.
Support. Motion is supported. Mr. Bruning, discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 6B, approval of the bid for a fire suppression system for Fire Station 2. Chief?
It's essentially, it's the same thing. So this is the suppression system. The first was the alarm system. This is the suppression, so the sprinkler system that's going in. We're still working. Like we said, there's some demolition work. There's some other work that we think would be prudent, and we're working on with Mr. Jacobs to get numbers for that. What we don't want to do, knowing that we've got a lot of work coming down the road at Station 2, what we don't want to do is install a sprinkler system and then be working around it to bring the building up to code and to put some of the renovations in that we know we need. Primarily, we'd like to get approval tonight so we can get moving with the material while we're still working through some costs that for upgrades that we want, that would be, again, to Mr. Montroy's point, reflected in the next budget year. So this is just to get the material coming. Either way, whether the board opted to wait with the extra work at Station 2, either way, we've got to get the sprinkler systems installed in, I think, the next 16 months so that we don't lose out on the grant funds.
Discussion? Okay, seeing none, I look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the bid for the fire suppression system for Fire Station 2 from Border Fire Protection Corporation in the amount of $62,400.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Bruning. Discussion? Mr. Steiner?
Just a quick note to that to remind everyone that a good percentage of this is coming from the grant money as well.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Montroy,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Ms. Janusik,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye, Mr. Brony.
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Okay, moving on to 6C, resolution amending the 2020-2021 special revenue funds. Ms. Hirschberger.
This request was by Adam. I don't know if he wants to speak on this.
Chief, you can go speak to it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd be happy with these adjustments. Were somewhat expected. If you recall, early on when the pandemic started, we had extra staffing that was on. We received grant money, about $27,000 in grant reimbursement money. For that, part of this request reflects the fact that we brought in that grant money and spent it back in about a year ago. So it reflects that, as well as the hiring of the 2 full-time firefighters, or the 2 additional positions that were approved last year and created that started January 3rd. So we knew there was adjustment, or there would be adjustments coming. We've been keeping track closely of our revenue versus the expenses, and we thought it was prudent this time to make this adjustment to make sure that we're going to be covered budget-wise as we work through the end of the year. We're still pretty optimistic that our revenue continues to outperform, and our expenses are under what we expected. So hopefully we expect to be very close to a balanced budget, but we knew coming into this when we added the positions to improve the service back in January that an adjustment was coming. The last component is going to be, we've had some firefighters throughout the past couple of months that were off for COVID-related illnesses, and that is covered, so we get reimbursed through the workman's comp for that. So there's some adjustment as far as backfilling of shifts that's going to be reimbursed through comp for that. So it's kind of wrapping everything together tonight.
Okay, questions for Chief? Seeing none, I look for a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the resolution amending the 2020-2021 special revenue funds.
Second.
Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Steiner. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Mr. Montroy,
I don't know if I should have. Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Ms. Janusik,
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye, Mr. Brony.
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Unfinished business, item 7A, appointment to the Planning Commission. I am recommending to the board to appoint Mike Smith to the Planning Commission for first term ending 12/31/23. Mr. Smith is a high school graduate and a longtime resident. Mr. Smith has the education, leadership skills, board experience, and is more than qualified to be a member of the Planning Commission. Mr. Smith has a thorough understanding of ordinances, planning, master plan, and zoning, having sat on the Monroe County Planning Commission. Mr. Smith has demonstrated his board leadership skills, having served on the Bedford Public Schools Board for 15 years and the Workforce Development Board in addition. He has served on many community projects throughout his work in Monroe County, and Mr. Smith has served in his community not only in the past, but is looking to serve once again. I make the motion, we approve Mike Smith. Do we have a support? Okay, no support, so the motion fails. I just want to read something really quick of a text I received from a resident that asked Mr. Bruning about applying for the position, and it was said that I would like to try to help out to fill this position. Watching the board meetings, what if I fill the vacancy? I'm a neutral party. His response was, don't do it. I will have Rick and Joe back me on not nominating you. I asked why. He said, it's not about you personally. It's about anyone that ever supported Paul, ever. And he said, okay. I put somebody on that didn't support me. Obviously, in the campaign, supported my opponent. And here we are. Qualified person, so I really don't know what the board's looking for. Because about 14,000 or so people voted for me. So if that's a sentiment, I'm not sure what to do moving forward. Mr. Steiner?
Well, as I've always said.
Yeah, we know that.
Mr.
I'm just telling
Peroni.
you what Mr. Bruning said.
Mr. Peroni, let me finish.
That's 100% not
Go
true
ahead.
either, Paul.
Go ahead, Mr. Steiner.
God, let me finish. Number one, Mr. Bruning doesn't speak for me and he knows that. So don't even go by that comment. Number two, I wasn't going to bring something up because I'm not a name dropper. But I thought very hard about this until today, what I was going to do on this nomination. And you were overheard with Mr. Stump discussing this. I don't know why Mr. Stump is back involved in this. He was involved with trying to get me and Joe Gore to sell votes. But I'm going to tell you right now, between you and Mr. Stump, a comment was made, oh, let's go with Mike Smith because Rick Steiner will vote for him because he is a member of a fellow member of an organization I belong to. I won't bring the organization into it because they are non-political and I will not have that organization drawn into politics. Therefore, I respectfully am not supporting this appointment of Mike Smith.
I have no idea what you're talking about with Mr. Stump, but it's your narrative, so that's fine. So
well, again,
I just wanted to bring that up. I'm talking right now, Mr. Steiner.
No, you want to make your comments,
no,
Mr.
I'm just saying I'm talking right now. You don't want to interrupt people. Let's keep moving forward and let's not get petty. I'm just simply reading something that was in writing from Mr. Bruning. So
No, it's not in writing. You
what
need
it's
to
worth.
show me,
So,
Paul, because that's total crap.
either way, the motion's down. I put somebody up that
Motion's
is
down, the question's
non-partial,
called.
that's qualified. Moving on to 7B, approval of the MCRC contract for Overbrand Craigville for the Heights subdivision. Got some information here with the petition. The road commission does do things differently with SADs. They don't do them like we do, Bedford Township, to where you have to get 51%. They have a board outside of the drain commissioner's office that recommends these after a petition is signed from so many members. I think it's 7. So it's not a petition where the 150 homeowners would have to get 51%. So that is different there. But nonetheless, these homeowners are paying for a road over, $11,000 something dollars, and it needs a crack seal. And so either we're going to maintain theirs like we are everybody else's, or we're not. So it's up to the board. Ms. Janizek?
So as you know, I was totally against this the last board meeting. I contacted Mr. Sergo at the Drain Commission because I wanted facts. I wanted information.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him several different questions. One of them was about the drain, and he said they did have to repair a drain that went under the road. The petition was for a drain assessment, not a road assessment, but because they had to take care of the road or cut away at the road to get at the drain, they sent a letter to the residents of the Heights subdivision asking them if they wanted to include the road repair with the drain assessment. And he said that they agreed because there was going to be a cost savings. They wouldn't have to do any engineering costs because that was already done. And that it was not just North Park, it was Clover and Pheasant as well. To address Mrs. Keene's comment, yes, Whitman Drive and the other roads were included in that drain assessment district. But these 3 roads were the only roads that got the paving done because they agreed to it through the informational meeting that letters were sent out. So that's what I had to say.
Okay. Any more discussion? If not, I look for a motion.
I'd make a motion to approve the Monroe County Road Commission contract for overband crack fill for the Heights subdivision in the amount of $870.
Second.
Okay, motion is supported. Ms. Januzak, discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Montroy,
Aye.
Ms. Janusik,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni.
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Okay, unfinished business 7C, approval to sell the 2011 Ford Crown Victoria. We did this last meeting. It was misworded, so here we are back with the changes, so it's correct for the record. So looking for motion to sell that.
I'll make a motion to sell the 2011 Ford Crown Victoria.
Support.
Motion is supported. Mr. Gore, discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Montroy,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Ms. Janusik,
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni.
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. All right, new business 8A, vouchers for payment. Ms. Hirschberger?
I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment. General Fund, $733,318.40. Fire District, $21,321.88. Police Fund, $435,140.70. Park Fund, $1,125.80. Fire Equipment, $1,049.66. Library Fund, $2,104.05. Downtown Development Authority, $52.59. Sewer O&M Fund, $9,533.22. Trust and Agency Fund, $532.73, for a grand total of $1,204,179.03.
Support.
Okay, motion in support of Ms. Januzak. As the board knows, things are changing with the police fund. The costs are going up. Cost per deputy per quarter now is $35K. So we are budgeting for that. But something I want to mention is I am having Masonic, and I've talked to Sheriff Goodenough, is costs could go up from what I'm seeing next year to $47,000 per officer per deputy per quarter. So we need to do a multi-year budget. I talked to Mr. Our finance director about it, Bob, and we do need to plan for the future, and because the cost could go up next year $400,000. So hopefully that's not the case. I do have Masonic looking deeply into it, but I just wanted to mention that. So, okay, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Ms. Janusik,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Mr. Montroy,
Aye.
Mr. Peroni.
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8B, approval of a waiver from the 6-to-1 ratio on partial 5802-015-019-60. Mr. Gore, Mr. Steiner, would you like to take that?
I was on vacation during the zoning appeal, so I was not involved in that.
Okay, does anybody have any questions regarding it? Or Mr. Graham, would you like to explain it?
Yes. Yes, it's nice to be with you. This is Tom Graham. And it would be unreasonable for Mr. Goldsmith to appear on his own application. So he has every right to make this application, and he's asking for the waiver. And just so we understand, this has nothing to do with the variance, because the variance has already been granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals. It actually doesn't have anything to do with the land division either, because the land division is controlled by the land division coordinator, which is your assessor. What this has to do with is exclusively the waiver of the depth to width ratio. So there is a 4-to-1 depth to width ratio that's been expanded to 6-to-1. And if it exceeds 6-to-1, then this board is the only one with jurisdiction to grant a waiver. Now, I'm not here to advocate for Mr. Goldsmith, but I'll just give you a few factors. I really haven't seen many, if any, of these turned down, because usually they come up when the area has already been developed along the same line as this property is being developed. And it is residentially zoned, and it could be a much more dense use there. So what I see is the compatibility with the other property owners in the area, the other properties in the area, and it seems to make sense. So again, if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them, but I think it makes, I think it fits in with the surrounding area.
Comments, questions from board members for Mr. Graham? Ms. Hirschberger?
I don't have a question. There was a call that came into Jody, so she just wanted me to clarify for the general public that this is not 3 parcels. This is 1 parcel that was divided into 2 5-acre parcels, and all we are doing is granting a waiver, the 6-to-1 ratio. Nothing more, nothing less. And I just wanted to make that clear. There's not a 3rd parcel, there's only the 2.
Okay. Any more comments or questions or discussion? Mr. Montry?
I mean, I guess if there is more, we can handle them at discussion, but I'll make a motion to approve the waiver from the 6-to-1 ratio on parcel 5802-015-019-60, and like stating, kind of echoing Mr. Graham, I agree that it's compatible with all the surrounding parcels, that it's almost identical to the couple parcels south of that. So that's my motion.
I'll second.
Okay, motion is supported. Mr. Steiner, any more discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Okay, moving on to 8C, approval to put a request for carpeting and interior modifications to the Bedford Branch Library out for bid. Mr. Montry?
Yeah, so I don't see any calls in. I had reached out to the Library Advisory Board president to see if he was going to be on the call to handle any questions. And then I know that librarian Miss Russ sent something out to the Library Advisory Board as well, just kind of asking the same question, if there was going to be anyone from the board here to answer questions. So I don't see anybody, so I don't know.
Can I make this quick and easy, I feel like, for the board? Just by a few of the things that I have here. So it's not clear that this is a sealed bid. Are we looking for a request for proposal or actual bid? Who wrote the specs? Are they from a potential bidder? We may be eliminating several local companies because they only do carpet. We should have separate bids, 2 separate projects here. And then you could work it to where one goes, the construction goes first, carpet comes second. Let the local people bid on it. I do not see in any bid about licensing, what insurance limits are being required. Did not see that. General liability, workman's comp. Who's going to check if materials were disposed on if the environmentally way they are requiring documentation? See sections 310. Who's going to move all the shelves and books? Did not see that in the specifications. Last time this was looked at, that was $70,000 itself. That's not in the specs. Maintenance guys can't handle that. They don't have the equipment, they don't have the time, and it's just a ton of work. So that needs to be in the specs. Section 3.13 should read township contractor and Bedford Township building inspector. Work completion should be completed for each phase and signed. I don't know who this is calling in, but maybe that's somebody at the library advisory board, but I think we should table it or the board can discuss separating these things but I don't think we could put it out as it is right now. Who's the caller, George? Is there somebody at the library advisory board? Go ahead. Caller, is this somebody at the library advisory board?
This is Jody.
Hi, Jody.
Hi. I didn't know if you wanted me to make comments since nobody else called in. I thought I should call in, but.
Yeah, I mean, if you would like to comment to anything, sure. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not sure why this is one bid for both items. I mean, it's going to be very difficult for a carpeting contractor who's local, which we have 2 of them to bid on, or 3 of them to bid on this job. With it being together the way it is, I think they should be separate bids. Did you hear everything I read?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did. And I believe that there is information in there that says that the carpeting needs to be under the shelving. Just to give you the background of why they made the choice that they made, all of the things that need to happen in this project really kind of need to happen simultaneously. You're not going to want to restructure desks and build meeting rooms without doing the carpeting, but you're not going to want to do the carpeting without having those desks moved because the carpeting has to go underneath the desks. So there are at least 2 companies in that list that was sent in with this for the request to go out that does all of that. It's the people that do library remodeling projects can do moving all the shelving. They don't even move the books. They have equipment that wraps the shelves and lifts them and put the carpeting underneath. Modifications, they can do the meeting room, the additional tutoring rooms that we want to add in the back corner. So when we were originally talking to local carpeting companies about this project, just to get an idea of how much carpeting do we need and what would be the cost of the carpeting, they pretty much all told me they don't want to do anything with the shelving, and that's honestly not an acceptable answer. So I don't disagree that that's an issue, which is exactly why we have names of companies that do library remodeling projects and can do the whole thing. So I don't know if anybody has any additional questions. I'd be happy to try to address those from what I know.
So why are we replacing the carpet that was just replaced down the center aisle roughly 4 or 5 years ago?
We're not. This is the carpeting. Nope, that should be X'd out. We did, if it's not X'd out, it was X'd out it's possible that.
Okay, because I'm not seeing that as being X'd out.
There should be an X through several sections that or have already done. So there's carpet tiles already in the community room, the children's round room, and then there's that main drag from the doors to the fireplace that's already been done. So none of those areas are going to have new carpeting installed. But there's significant amount of work to be done at the current reference desk and the computer pod. That's the kind of stuff, and the circulation desk. Those are the kinds of things that really have to go hand in hand with the carpeting project, because you have to get the carpet underneath those desks. And the last time that we did a desk modification in there, that didn't happen. And so there's literally patchworked carpet that we now have duct taped down behind the staff working area, because that's what we had to do. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this project, it's just a lot of money. And, when you look at the actual millage language, which I had it in front of me a second ago.
This was the major key component that we asked for, and I understand what you're going to read in the millage language doesn't specifically say carpeting, but one of the major reasons that we asked for the money that we asked for when we asked the community to pass that millage was to replace the carpeting.
So
it is 16 years old.
Let me just read it says, shall the annual tax limitation imposed under Section 6, Article 7 under the Michigan Constitution be increased, and shall the Township of Bedford Township authorize of levy 0.25 mills upon the taxable real and tangible personal property within the Township of Bedford, Monroe County, Michigan for a 5-year beginning 2018, providing certain funding for the Bedford Township Library for general building and grounds operations and maintenance, and for the capital expenditures for building and grounds improvements and replacements. The estimated revenue for the first year of the levy is positioned to be approved. All I'm saying is that when I bring up things like the chiller or this and that, I hear, well, we told the people. This is what you told the people, what's on the levy. So I'm not saying we can't do the carpet, but it's not that we have to sit on that. Because what's in the millage is what we told the people. That's what the majority of people voted on. The majority of the people didn't see, this being a carpet job. But I do agree with you. There's areas that are rough, but I just think we need to really clean up the specs and really take more time with it and really understand why we're doing this project. Do all the board members understand why we're doing this whole project other than the carpet of rebuilding stuff? And, is this what the board wants? Should we be looking at different options of putting a coffee shop in our library while we're spending all this money or something that could, gain some capital back for the library? We have vending machines in there that they make 10% off of that, I'm just saying we really probably need to think about it. We're spending a lot of taxpayer dollars for something I don't think this board even really knows why or what we're,
I did provide township board members with all of the millage materials that were distributed throughout the community when that millage was passed, and that was one of the key components that was included on there. And I guess I would have hoped that if anybody had any questions, they would have already addressed those, but I'd be happy to answer those now. This is the biggest ticket item that we asked for that millage for. We probably would not have even pursued that millage as hard as we did if we didn't know we needed to replace the carpeting. And as I said, it's 16 years old. We estimate that there's at least 100,000 people that come in the building on an average year. If you look at the carpeting in the children's room, there's literally bare spots. And as I said, we've got multiple areas that are duct taped down right now over by the public computer pod and in the staff area.
And Jody, just so you know,
so that they're not a trip hazard, like we have to make sure we can keep people safe. And if duct tape's the way we're going to keep people safe, that's kind of.
Yeah.
And Jody, we haven't presented our budget for the special fund yet. That budget actually includes money for the chiller. So there, if that's what needs to happen, we have that money budgeted, and this millage will support that as well.
Well, Jody, I helped you guys get the millage passed. I supported it. I have no problem with the millage. There's just a lot of issues I've had with the way we've gone about some things. I personally have told you guys multiple times, the library advisory board, you need to look at the chiller first because it's failing and it's a big ticket item. I was all for the controls, LEDs, all the things to make the building the most efficient it can be. But I think we need to do what's most important first. And, have all the board, I would suggest really understand what we're doing here. We're talking a lot of money, but the board, it's open up to the board, for what you want to do. I personally think that the specs need to be cleaned up a lot, but Ms. Hirschberger.
Jody, can you tell me who wrote the specs?
I believe Harry wrote the specs with some help from some people that he's worked with in the past on specs.
Okay, he's wrote the specs in the past for some things.
Yes.
Mr. Steiner?
So when we do, if whatever we decide to do, when we go out to bid, I think we should look at it as twofold. I don't know if we should separate it entirely or put in the bid that if you are a carpet installer, still bid on all things carpet. If you're a tile installer, bid on all things tile. Or if you can do both, bid on it as an entire project and separately. That way you might get a better deal if the same company is doing both, but haven't broken out separately in that contract, the bid proposal. I think it's easier than doing one, separate, all these separate bids, do it as one with the stipulations, just write them into it.
I agree. That's a good idea. There's no reason we shouldn't give local people the opportunity. There's no reason these companies can't figure out a schedule to work together. They do it every day on general contracting jobs out there on your bigger contracting jobs. You have multiple companies working. They can communicate and get the job done. So, I disagree with the comment made that it needs to be one company. But as far as our local companies not wanting to move shelves, that wasn't the understanding I had when I toured it with one of our local carpet guys about 6 months ago. So, Mr. Gore?
Paul, and I agree with both what you and Rick are saying. This has to be, make sure all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, so it doesn't get out of hand when somebody gets into the project. Are you looking for a motion to table it or a motion to approve it?
Well, I'm looking for direction from this board to give to the library advisory board so they can advise us on what we want as a board. Because I think our library advisory board kind of forgets that they're advising us. What do we want as a board? And then they will do the work and advise us. That's how it's got to be done. And I think it'll be a lot smoother when we do that because we table most of the items. I don't disagree that something needs to be done, but it's got to be, what does this board want? You know what I mean? They're bringing us a major project here that, I don't know. Has any of the other board members been over there and toured to see what they want, really looked at the carpet and really understood the magnitude of what we have here? I don't know. I've toured it 3 times and walked through it and looked with it and made sure it's, you know what I mean? And I have a lot of questions on it. I don't know. Personally, I think we're missing out on an opportunity to put a coffee shop in there or something to where people can go there and hang out and visit our library. If you're going to do a major project, maybe it's time to really think outside the box. But I totally agree with Mr. Steiner. We need to give opportunities for local companies to do this, and I think that's a good way to do it. But go ahead, Ms. Russ.
I just wanted to say that the Library Advisory Board made a presentation to the Township Board before that millage was requested. And one of the major components of that was we showed pictures of every single thing that we were asking for either replacement or repair on. We showed potential realignment of furniture and everything else. The Township Board at the time told us that it was the best presentation they had ever seen. They unanimously approved us asking for the millage. And so I realized that this is a different board that we're working with now. But when the Library Advisory Board went to the township with that plan to ask for the millage, I think the Library Advisory Board at that point understood, because the Township Board unanimously approved that plan, that the Township Board was unanimously approving the points that we were putting into the millage presentation. So I get that this is a different Township Board and maybe you haven't all toured the building, but those things had already been discussed, and it's really, to my mind anyway, at this point it's more about how we go about doing those projects and what else we do with the money generated by the millage than it is whether or not we do those projects at all. Like I'm not, like the coffee shop idea, first of all, I want to say I'm not necessarily opposed to that, but that's completely aside from all the other things that we've asked to get done. We don't want to get fancy until we get fixed. That's my thought on that.
Yeah, so, thank you, Ms. Russ, for your comments. But just keep in mind, this is a new board. Our old board,
I understand.
We got to start over. So everything that we did with the old board, we have to do with the new board and really get them up to snuff. Because I still have questions, and I was on the last board. So we just, and like I said, I'm one board member. the board wants to move forward with it, go ahead. I'm just stating my issues with it. I support the library 150%. I've bent over backwards to save money and get things done over the past 5 years, and it's a much better place because of it. I'm not saying I don't support it. I'm just saying this is a lot of money in a big project. The board needs to understand really what we're doing. Mr. Steiner? You're muted. You're muted.
How about we move forward here and take some of these things that were brought up tonight, such as, insurance and some of the couple things that you mentioned about need to be in the bid specs, et cetera. How about we get those over to Mr. Montry since he's with the library, and he can sit down with the next meeting they have and go over those things. So get everything to Craig and then we can move forward from there. But I think there's not much we can do on this evening.
Okay. All right. I look for a motion to table.
A motion to table. So next
Support.
Meeting.
A motion in support of Mr. Gore. Any more discussion, Mr. Steiner?
I probably should amend that to say it would have to be the meeting after the next library meeting.
Yeah, I mean, we're in no rush. I mean,
Right.
Yes, it's a perfect time to do this project because they are closed. I mean, but I would highly recommend that all board members, if you haven't been over there, meet with the library advisory board and really fully understand what they're doing here. And maybe you have some ideas of maybe how they could do it different, because we have to keep that in mind. It's, okay. All right, just call the roll, please.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek,
Aye.
Mr. Montry,
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye, Mr. Peroni.
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Thank you, Jody, for being on. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, moving on, guys, to 8D, approve the succession of the administrative assistant to the planning coordinator position. Ms. Hirschberger?
In your memo, I put pretty much everything. The first motion I'm asking for is the succession of Jody Rector into the planning coordinator's position, which is the one that Karen Kincaid just retired from. I'm asking to put her in there at the salary that Karen left at. Ms. Rector is not only trained in GIS, but is trained by the previous planning coordinator, Karen Kincaid, to transition into her role upon Ms. Kincaid's retirement. Ms. Rector has 7 years' experience in the planning department.
I just want to mention that Jody is excellent to work with. She's just, you can't say enough good things about her. She's always professional, shows up to work every single day, runs the planning commission meetings very well. And when Ms. Kincaid was gone a lot of the last year due to COVID and some family issues, she stepped right in and did the job. So I totally agree with moving her into that position. So that's just my 2 cents.
If everyone's ready, I'll make a motion. If there's no more discussion.
Support.
No, I haven't made the motion.
A little too quick.
We're ready to go.
I'll make a motion to approve the succession of Jody Rector from administrative assistant to planning coordinator in the planning department at the current planning coordinator salary of $65,656.
Support.
Okay, motion support by Mr. Bruning. Discussion. Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Jandisek,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Mr. Montry,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye, Mr. Peroni.
Aye, motion passed 7-0. Okay, moving on to 8E, approve the transition of a part-time employee to a full-time administrative assistant in the planning department. Ms. Hirschberger?
I'm further asking the board to approve the transition of the part-time employee Katrina Ingram to the full-time administrative assistant in the planning department at the current rate of an administrative employee, which is $41,530. In August of 2019, the planning department posted for a seasonal position to start the succession plan for the upcoming retirement of Karen Kincaid, the planning coordinator. After interviewing 4 applicants, Ms. Ingram was brought on as the seasonal employee. On October 6, 2020, I presented to the Township Board the second part of the succession plan by asking for the approval to move Ms. Ingram to a part-time employee in the planning department, help fill gaps during vacations and sick time, as mentioned during the previous budget meetings, but was trained under the current administrative assistant. The planning department budgeted for the succession plan as part of the current 2021 budget and the upcoming 21-22 budget that we are in the process of putting together.
Any comments? Mr. Montry?
I guess I just have a couple of questions. I just feel like this is it's an important role. I think the planning department can be, for the future of the township, can be one of the most important areas and departments as far as it goes. And I'm just curious, like, are we filling the position with the most qualified candidate, or are we just like, well, you're here and can fill the spot? Like, have we really looked for someone to really fill this role?
I did back in 2019 when we started the interviews to fulfill the succession plan.
Mr. Steiner?
And she's been doing very well.
Ms. Hirschberg, if I'm not mistaken, didn't you actually interview some people in
Yes.
19?
Yes. We
And-
took applications and interviewed and told each one of them that this was a succession. Were they interested? It would start out at seasonal. We didn't know how long at that time. It would probably move to part-time, and then at her retirement would go to full-time so that we could have the succession plan and someone fully trained before Karen retired.
And so last week, we technically had 3 positions over there with Karen, Jody, and then this position as part-time. Now you're just basically backfilling 2 and you eliminate that 3rd one.
Correct.
So you're technically still saving on that too.
I'll go ahead, Mr. Montry.
How much of a raise is this from her current salary?
She does not have a salary at this time and they all make the same.
So it's so she worked 40 hours.
Hourly part-time employees make the same.
So she
No,
40 hours?
she's not. No, she's
32.
right now at a part-time. She's around 32, 35.
So 35 times 15.
I think it's 1570, 1590, something like that. But we would be moving her up as we would anyone else, or starting anyone else at the administrative salary, which is the lowest salary that we have at the township right now.
Actually, Teresa's lower than that. Teresa, she would be 2,000 more than Teresa. So she wouldn't be the lowest full-time person. I just want to say, if Katrina's watching, this has nothing to do, it's not personal. It's about what's best for our community. So and I know I can speak for Mr. Montry as well. I don't know if the board sees, but when we're doing our budget, you've seen the fee schedule from maintenance, or not from maintenance, from the building department. There's no major commercial coming next year that we're seeing, just a couple of things. There's no new subdivisions coming that is going to be a big deal for this year. Things are going to be probably a little slower than a normal year. And next year, we could be facing $400,000 more in our sheriff's department. So my thing is, she's been with the township for what, a year? I mean, with the COVID and everything, maybe a year. And we're moving her into full time. I mean, it's not like we have, I mean, major strides here. I mean, yeah, she's worked in the department. She knows how to do some things, but why don't we leave her at part-time and see where we're at next year before we give somebody, a $40,000 difference in pay and salary and benefits and the whole package. I mean, it's going to cost the township another 30, 40 grand easily. why don't we wait till next year, see where we're at with the sheriff's department, because we're gonna need to save every dime we can get. I mean, I just don't see why we have to move to full-time right now. It's just like in maintenance. I've had a caller call in every week saying, oh, you gotta put a full-time back into maintenance. Why? Why? If it doesn't justify it, I mean, it doesn't, they're doing just fine right now with the way things are. Why the full part-time to full-time? Because somebody retired? I just don't get that. I get you did the succession plan and we talked about it and stuff, but I mean, things change. Things have changed in this community in the last year. I just know that next year, when we're talking about a budget, we have $400,000 more. We're going to be looking at doing a lot of things that if we want to maintain. And this is one of those opportunities. Quite frankly, in my opinion, we missed one with the assessing department, spending more money. I'm happy with assessing solutions. They're going to be great, but we're spending $20-some thousand more. And now we're going to be spending $40-something thousand more when we don't have to. And I think we have an opportunity here. Put it out and see what you get. You could get somebody has degrees in this and is graduated from college. And I mean, that's going into this field. I mean, we don't know what we're going to get. Why not put it out there and see what we would get? I mean, that, and Craig, I get the most phone calls for that department from builders, developers, and people. You know what I mean? It's so. And the other thing is if we thought about contracting out the money we would save, if we do need to work on things, we have a firm that handles all that stuff. Like I said, I totally agree with Jody. I mean, she knows the position, she handles the planning commission, she can handle day-to-day operations, everything Karen was doing, but I don't agree with this. That's my 2 cents.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it. Okay, we'll make it.
I'll make a motion to approve the transition to part-time planning employee Katrina Ingram to full-time administrative assistant in the planning department at the current administrative salary of $41,530.
Support.
Okay, motion and supported discussion, Mr. Montre.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, I know you said like you disagree with it. I don't know that I necessarily disagree with it. I just feel like this is an opportunity for a hybrid of like what you're saying, where keeping them at keeping this at part-time and looking for, you might stir something up. I don't know. Like, I just feel like there's an opportunity to to fill this role with the most qualified candidate. And I would also say, I know that this board wasn't huge on giving pay raises a couple months ago. And I don't know, but I would have liked to see this get rebid out and re-look at it before this rolled into that. So that's all I have.
Well, I just want to know some of the thoughts on, I mean, Teresa would be making $2,000 less than this. And Teresa came with 5 years experience and has been here almost 3 years. And now this new employee who's been here a year full time is going to be making $2,000 more a year. I mean, it's, I would hate to be Teresa watching this and saying, wow. So I don't know if we need to put a committee together to look at all salaries for part-time people and look at other areas, because if you look at other areas with like Park Township right now for an assistant assessor, same level, same deal as Teresa, is $25 to $30 an hour. Teresa's making 19. So just something to think about. Could you call the roll, please?
Well, maybe that's something you need to bring to the board, Paul, because I didn't realize that she was that low. I thought she made the same as all the other administrative assistants. So maybe that's something we do need to look at, is Teresa's salary.
I will bring it. I'll bring it next meeting. I'm just trying to be extremely frugal right now because I know the future.
But, you know, if we have a good employee, you don't want to lose her.
I agree.
$2,000
She was totally happy with where she was at until she saw this. So, okay. Call the roll, please.
Ms. Jandisek. Aye. Mr. Bruning.
Aye.
Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Mr. Montroy.
Nay.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni.
No, my vote has nothing to do with Katrina. I think she's a great person and probably does a great job up there. I just think it's a missed opportunity. So, okay. And the motion passed 5-2. All right, moving on to 8F, approval to purchase a trailer for the maintenance department. Okay, you've got 3 quotes here. I met with Pat last week and looked at this trailer that they're getting rid of. It's extremely old. It has a lot of issues. Pat's put a lot of patches on it over the years. But as a welding instructor myself, the welds that were put on it aren't very good. And I just think it's time to upgrade it. Quite frankly, I think we could probably get the same money out of this trailer that we would be selling as we're probably paying for a new one. But you have the quotes in front of you. We have obviously only one that's in the community that does the trailers, which is John's Trailer. And I believe his price is the cheapest, so my recommendation is to go with John's Trailer. So any purchase of the trailer, and the money isn't a budget, so purchase the trailer from John's Trailer Sales in the amount of $3,000. And then I would also looked at I put it on the next agenda to sell it, the old trailer, but that's my motion. Motion supported by Mr. Bruning. Discussion. Could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Peroni,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Mr. Montroy,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Ms. Janusik,
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
And the motion passed 7-0. Item 8G, approval of the Monroe County Road Commission contract for road repair on Adler Road from Stearns to Concierge. I've been working on this project for over 3 years now with the Waiver Township. Basically waiting for them to come up with the funds. They were waiting on bonding from the road commission, and that's not something that they do anymore. So finally, the road commission was able to talk to them about that a few weeks ago and said that they're ready to fund the project. This is our last much needed project in the community. The money is there in the budget to be able to do it this fiscal year. And I can tell you this, there'll be a lot of thrilled residents to see it because it's a very rough road right now. Board members know, but Manikin Smith did have another plan that our old board said to look at both to give us a couple options. It was to widen the road because technically right now it's not wide enough with the feet, how many feet its width is. They were going to widen it, reditch it, straighten it up because right now it's not a good straight road, and do a base stabilization where they crushed everything and redo it properly, leveled. It was over $1 million project, but Bedford Township was only willing to put in the same amount as this project. I personally have an issue with that, because what if Bedford Township starts putting in subs and has more residents on that side of town than we do, and we have this road we have to maintain, and they're not willing to keep up with us. So I agree with this fix, although it's probably not the right fix, but it's something that they can afford and we can afford. So, any comments, questions? Then I look for a motion. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Gore.
Looking at it, and I don't have a problem. I'm just concerned where it says total probable cost. I know cost could go up, fluctuate, or whatnot. Who's on the hook with that? Are we splitting if it goes up 10 grand, are we splitting it 5 and 5 with Waiver, or are we on the hook?
Well, everything would be split. I mean, it could go up 10%. That's with all of our projects once they're bid out.
Correct.
That'll be something that, we go to them and, the road commission, we wouldn't be on the hook for everything. No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
So right now, we're sitting with a balance in the road funds of 228,766.
Mhm.
And of course, this would not be done and billable until next fiscal year. So, where are we at right this minute? Are we gonna end up with some carryover out of our roads?
Yes, we got about $18,000 in bills coming from the road commission yet. So minus the 18, we have, roughly 210 left. So with the one, whatever it is, 150, our share 148,
148.
we will have, quite a bit extra money. But as far as billing goes, if we do get billed in 6 months, I believe Ms. Hirschberger can work that out with the auditor to where it can be taken, or right, Ms. Hirschberger, to where, or do I need to have the road commission bill us before the fiscal year ends?
Are you talking about next fiscal year?
Yeah, because every year we have projects and then we end up getting bills in the next fiscal year, but it goofs our budget, so we have to fix it,
Yeah, we would want the road commission to get them all to us in the fiscal year that we've budgeted for.
Yeah, so we wouldn't get it this fiscal year because they won't bill us until the road's done.
Right.
That
But
was
next fiscal year, if their billing system runs late, we would want to request that they give us the rest of the bill so we can get it paid in next fiscal year before it ends.
Yeah, so we'll get it into 21, 22, and then if there's roughly 210 carryover, that covers that, and then it still leaves us the original 400,000 into next year, depending on what else we do with the fund. So I'm good with that.
Okay. I look for a motion. Mr. Montry, or we already have a motion, I think, don't we?
No, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the Monroe County Road Commission contract for road repair on Adler Road from Stearns to Concierge as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion supported by Ms. Januzak. Discussion anymore? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Montry,
Aye.
Ms. Janusik,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni.
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8H, direction on how to proceed with auditing service for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. Ms. Hirschberger?
So at our May 19, 2020 board meeting, the board approved Raymond to perform the auditing service for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020. They did not approve any other years for them to do it. So Bob would like direction from this board. Does this board want to extend the offer to Raymond for another year? Or do we want to send an RFP, which he has attached, out and see what we get back?
Well, what would you recommend, Ms. Hirschberger? I mean, you just worked with him for the past year, and I mean, you had the experience with him. I mean, I don't know how the other board members could really answer that. You had the day-to-day experience with him. None of us did.
This wasn't the company I chose to begin with when we bid it out the first time. They were okay. The prices were a little higher than I expected them to be, even to start out with. They were not the lowest bid, but because some of the board members knew them, we went with this firm because he was local. It wouldn't hurt to go back out for bids. They could rebid it.
So you don't feel like they did a good job, or you feel like they overcharged, or what was the issue? Because I mean, from what I saw, I mean, what we dealt with, it seems like they did a great job. They caught a lot of things and helped us get through a rough 9 years to where it was goofed up for 9 years and corrected a lot.
They did, but their cost was a little high, and Bob and I talked, and if the board's pleasure is to stay with them, we will, but Bob thought it would be good to go out and see what else is out there.
But well, we're going out because it's only a 1-year contract, not because Bob has nothing to do with what the board to do, but
he worked as much as I did, if not more.
I would just say that the reason we got charged more is because they had to do so much extra work. It's not because of the bid. They were low bidder. So next year,
No,
I mean,
they were not the low bid. That's what I'm saying. They were not the low bid.
oh, it was really close if they weren't.
I don't think so, but I would have to go back and look at the bids. But they were
Yeah.
definitely not the low bid.
Okay, Mr. Mantra, you're muted.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the third audit I've been through, and I would say was uncomparably thorough. I felt like it was the first audit that was an audit and which is why it took so long is because they actually did it. They actually went through. I mean, goodness gracious, they can't be the most expensive. They saved us $1 million. Like, is how I view that. I feel like they didn't rubber stamp a single thing and gave us probably the most clear, concise, genuine audit of our books that was probably happened in a long time, and at the very least, out of the three that I've been through, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to necessarily, but I felt like I didn't think that there was going to be discussion about this. I thought they were so genuinely thorough that we would have said, hey, we got our money's worth. Like I said, it's specifically them saving us $1 million or whatever, that alone is, yeah.
Mr. Brewing?
Yeah, you guys know how I am on quotes. I say put it out for bid. Let's see what's out there. I have no problem getting bids.
Yeah, but we already did that last year, and this is, I mean, we got it. I don't know why on God's green earth you would want to change a company that just went through and just understood our books and got to know everything, got to work with Trudy and Bob and has a clear understanding with it. And next year will be 10 times smoother.
You don't know that. Trudy
Yeah,
wasn't
I
happy
will
with
know
it.
this as a 9-year board member that sat on this board after being through all these. This was by far the clearest understanding, like Mr. Montrai said, where it was understandable. It wasn't rubber stamped like he said. It was.
Daniel also worked for you and TC Clements. You can't be biased there.
Yeah, but if we want to get
and
petty,
Jason Shepard.
If we want to get petty, Mr. Brewing,
for me also. When
has anybody bought a beer from Pavlov's here? If we want to get petty, if you want to bring up petty stuff, let's get petty. Did Miss Hirschberger let the board know when they order food from Mannequin Smith every year? Does anybody order anything from a Rawlings or our local companies? How petty does this board want to get?
Not me.
Okay, I hired Mr. Clark to do a service a few years ago, paid him. He's never contributed to my campaign. He did a job. That's it. Now, if we want, I mean, has anybody gotten anything done at Lewis Avenue Auto Shop, our local company that we contract with?
Let's call the question.
Let's not get petty.
Calling the question.
Yeah.
You have to make them. You have to do board motion if we're going to call the question. We've gone over this. We'll move on, Ms. Hirschberger.
You have to have a second for the call first.
We're moving on. Ms. Hirschberger is going to talk.
Krista had her hand up first. Go ahead.
Hands up.
Well, I was going to speak on obviously the point with the auditor. This is my first, actual personally dealing with the auditor. I can know for a fact on several occasions, first of all, they obviously with COVID, they did not come into the building unless they had a serious need to, which they came in once, maybe twice. The other thing was every time they needed something, we submitted it to them. They lost it. They couldn't find it. We had to submit things to them 2 and 3 different times. If we submitted them some things, it may have been right. It may not have been right. They asked, and then they'd say, well, no, we don't want it this way. We want it this way. So it wasn't a very smooth transition as everyone thinks it was, because reports, I mean, we had to email like pages and pages of reports. And like I said, they were lost. They were, who knows what happened to them. So, I mean, I see everybody's point, but this is just my experience with this audit. having to submit reports multiple times to a company who is supposed to be a reputable, well-known company. That's just my thoughts.
Mr. Sperger?
Couple things. They really didn't save us $1 million. It would have came back up eventually when we spoke to the bank. We did talk to them, and the bank actually knew that the money was there from June and didn't tell us. So we're going through that with the bank, talking to them and our bonding agent on why that was not brought back up to us when they knew about it back in June. So $1 million was not saved. It was there. It was ours. It was in an account. Just wasn't in the township account physically here, but it was in a township account in that bank. Krista's right. We submitted over and over and over. I'm not going to sit here and belittle a company. There was some bad. So I say let's bid it out and see what we get. If they come back a bid, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine too.
I'm totally fine with whatever the board wants, but let's not say that Bob wanted to do this. Let's just call it what it
Nobody
is.
said Bob wanted to do this. I said Bob wanted direction from this board.
Okay. Okay. Any more discussion? Okay. Seeing none, I look for a motion.
I make a motion that we send this out for bid.
Support.
Okay. Do we want to say in the motion what we're sending out for bid or getting?
There's an RFP attached that we can use.
Just tell me what you want me to say.
Is this, will we be putting out for bid 1 year, 2 year, 3 years? Is it going to be the same RFP?
There's an RFP already together, hooked to the packet that Bob has went over and is good to go out immediately. We can put it out just like we have in the past. We put in there an example date, May 6th. We could put that out later. We thought that was a good date to use at the time, but you know, we can use a later date, and we can go to 3 years like we did in the past and see what comes back. So Todd, if you just want to amend your motion to say to send the request for proposals as presented in the board packet, we can use that one.
I amended it, that's fine.
Mr. Gore, you okay with that?
I was just gonna say, Trudy, was that just a friendly,
Yes.
Yeah.
okay. I'm fine with that.
Okay. Motion support. Any more discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bruni,
Yes.
Mr. Gore,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Mr. Montry,
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek,
Aye.
Hertzberger votes aye, Mr. Peroni.
No, because I think we have a good thing with what we have right now, and they did a great job last year, in my opinion. And I think we're making a mistake. So
They can rebid and
motion
they can come
passed
back
6 to
next year.
1. We have, Mr. Gore, with all due respect, we have a lot of people that we renew. We have engineers, we have lawyers, we have so many contracts that are just renewed every year. It's not because, you know what I mean, somebody did a good job, whatever, either way. Okay, moving on to 8I, revision to the boards and committees procedure document. Oh, wait, yep, Mr. Montry?
Yeah, so I attempted to communicate my concern with the redundancy and lack of clarity in this document before it was adopted, specifically in subsections of 6.6. I wrote this up the day after that. That was back in the first week of March, but we've had really full agendas the last month or so, so we're finally just getting back to it. I did include multiple copies in the packet, so you guys had the ability to compare and contrast. The clerk did call me with a couple suggested edits, so unless anybody has any other questions, I'll kind of transfer over and address those. So that is on, if you will turn to the second to the last page, under the highlighted section of 6.6.8.2. The clerk had made the suggestion to change that whole thing instead of listing every single board, and needing to, if we did create a committee or anything, that it would, anytime any new anything, that this would need re-edited. So to have that read that all other boards and committees are unpaid, and then we would, if there was anything else that was created that would be a paid board, we could put in 6.6.81. We would add those, but we could leave that, the 6.6.82, a little bit more generalized, that all the other boards and committees are unpaid. The other edit was just below that, 6.6.10. And what we would do is, as is in your packet, it would say on 6.6.10.2, that's the are authorized. We would have that read, the township clerk's department is authorized to administer the oath of office. And then we would take 6.6.10.4 and move that up to the top. So that would be 0.1, and then you would shift all the rest of those in that 6.6.10 down. So it'd be take the bottom one, put it at the top, shift the rest down, and be good to go. I don't know if there's any other questions or comments.
Craig, we switched that 6.610.1 to read the motion that was made at the meeting before that.
Yeah. Because I had put that in when I had written this up. It was before we had the official, like after the last meeting. So
Right.
What would be now 6.6.10.1 would be based off of from that meeting before there was clarification in the language.
Correct.
To that point.
Mr. Stein? Are you done, Mr. Mantra?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Stein?
You're muted.
So what I'm seeing is there's no real change. 6.682 is just deleting that section, adding all other boards unpaid. 6.610, oath of office, supervisor department notify the person that was approved by township board by sending a congratulative email, welcoming them to the board or committee, and then the clerk's department would follow by swearing the appointee in. And then
3, we eliminated township clerk and deputy clerk and just put the clerk's department.
Okay, so that's not showing on this diagram. So let's make sure 6.6.10.3, the clerk's department instead of the clerk or deputy clerk.
Correct.
Then 6.6.10.4, that stays, and then 6.6.10.5 is deleted.
Right, it was 4, but when you knock it down, it turns to 5, but it's gone.
Okay, yeah, so that's good.
It was that was there before the motion we made to make it 1.
Okay. I'm okay with those changes.
Ms. Januzak?
One other addition at the end of the document, is there any way we could add a signature and date that it was approved on and signed by the clerk and the supervisor? That way it's signed and there's no confusion like in the past. That's all I have.
Okay, well, I mean, you
Like
can do that.
Like a resolution?
I don't think, I mean, because you've already got your revision history section, so we would just need to change that date. And then it's approved by the township board and we put in, we can put the date in on the left side.
Okay.
And then the revision, this would technically be, well, it's technically number 1, because we've never made a revision. So we just need to change that 3/16 date to today. And then we make it revision 1 with the changes made tonight. And then we should be good to go.
Okay, I'm good.
I suppose Trudy, or we could probably put in the approved by. We could put the township board and the date, even though it's still on the left side. We could put that in the notes on the right.
We could.
Okay, I look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the recommended changes to the board and committee procedure document as presented this evening with the changes that were just stated.
Support.
Okay, motion and support of Ms. Januzak.
So as amended.
As amended.
Any discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Burning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Okay, moving on to 8J, approval to hire a part-time maintenance worker. So this is something we put out to the public a couple different times to get candidates for seasonal and part-time. We did get a decent amount of applicants. We called the ones from last year that applied when we did this. I did do a hard look at replacing the full-time. At this time, things are going just fine. I'm not going to replace a full-time person just to do it to appease one resident or whatever. I'm looking at what's best for the community to save money and to get that done without losing service. And that's what we're doing. Things are getting done. Grass is being cut. We're hiring 3 seasonal people to come in and, get us through the spring, summer, and fall. And then, I'd look to keep on the way I'm working it this year would be to do some reduced hours in the summer for a couple of seasonal and be able to keep the one other seasonal year round with us. That's the way I'm trying to figure it. But either way, with Jeff, he worked for us last year. Pat loves him. He does a good job. Shows up. He lives in the community. I mean, he worked in the maintenance department 20 years ago, and he just enjoys the work. I did call all the other people, and one other one was interested in the part-time position. I'm actually bringing him on seasonal now to see how he does, and Pat agreed with that. I'm looking for the board to approve the hiring of Jeff King as a part-time worker at the pay rate of $15.70 an hour, and he has a great seasonal record.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
I'll support that.
Okay, motion is supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Burning?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
Okay, the motion passed 7-0. Comments from the public. Comments limited to 2 minutes for each individual. Name and address and go ahead with your comment.
Hi, this is Lamar Frederick, 3254 Deer Creek Drive. I do want to thank Mr. Goldsmith for a long conversation we had this afternoon about silo building. I keep hearing from the supervisor and sometimes others I have been. I am the only one that's doing this. I am the one who has done all this work. Why not knock down the silos and have conversations among the board on what you're doing from time to time? It doesn't mean that it's going to be the completed project, but clearly we got to knock down this silo stuff and start talking among the group. The board makes the decision. The employees are employed by the board. They are not employed by a single individual. So no more of this, please. I have been, rather than I am reporting to you so that you know where we are. That's my view. Secondly, the stuff that I was talking about in the first 5 minutes that I got cut off, most of those have been answered by now. But again, it's clear that it's important that if you're going to adopt this procedure for placement on committees, which you've done tonight, you better follow the damn thing, because every time we turn around, somebody's trying to make a new rule in the enforcement of how the process goes forward. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night. Next caller. Go ahead and state your name and address and go with your comment.
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. Okay, let's see here. To start with, I have an issue with the text. That text message should have been presented at public comment, and you are in a huge violation of the Open Meetings Act. I'm requesting full disclosure, and I am publicly requesting the Freedom of Information Act of that text message. This isn't the first time. It's been done prior even to COVID, so don't use that excuse. But I have submitted concerns of this to the state's Attorney General, and it's something the Township Board has to act on, and that includes the attorney. Mr. Peroni, you have no reason to pat yourself on the back for the library. The head count of 100,000 people equates to 2 sets of feet coming in and going out. It's not a matter of what you want, and it's not a matter of what the board wants. It's what the people want. The library is there to serve the people, and I'm tired of the antics and the innuendos that are thrown about by Mr. Montry and Mr. Peroni, because these are pathetic, immature tantrums. You didn't get your way, and there's reason why. And you continue to give false information, despite being proven that your numbers did not equate out regarding the assessing department. So, Adler, it was a deluxe version. Mr. Gore, I'll be giving you the phone number to check with Whiteford people so that you can hear exactly what I got told when I checked with them. And we're going to have to cut maybe some of the police. We're not just going to not allow people to be moved about when there is good reason to have that. So we've got some work to be done. But trust me, it's not in the area
Hey, Ms.
that
Keene, your time is up. We
want.
appreciate your comments.
I appreciate
Have a great
that.
night.
Thanks.
Okay.
You
Bye-bye.
too, dear.
Hey,
Bye-bye.
next caller. Hey, go ahead with your name and address and state your comment.
Yes, this is Jody Rector from the Planning Department. I just wanted to take the opportunity while I had all board members present to thank you for approving my position and Katrina's. You all have a good evening, and thank you again.
Thank you, Jody. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Good evening. Go ahead and state your name, address, and go with your comment.
Josh Stump, 7178 Wiltshire Drive. Rick, I'm speaking directly to you because someone's lying to you. I'd appreciate it if you would cite your source. If you're going to publicly call me out, then tell the public who told you that, because I can tell you right now that they're lying. Right hand to God, I don't have a clue as to what organization you belong to or Mike belongs to. I was never involved with any conversation regarding you and any organization and Mike Smith and Planning Commission. I can tell you that for a fact right now. So whoever told you that crap is lying. I'm going to look into slander. I demand an apology. If not, at least put a name on your source. If not, then just keep my name out of your mouth, because I'm telling you, I'm going to look into slander, because that's an outright lie. Without a doubt, I was never in conversation with anyone, with Mike Smith, your name, any organization. I couldn't tell you what organization you guys belong to. So I don't know who told you that crap, but I can tell you right now, I never had a conversation. I never asked you to sell votes. I was never bribing you. No one personally was benefiting from any idea I came up with. It was an idea, a starting point, something to get a conversation going on how to solve a problem because you guys won't have the conversation. I apologize, and I admitted that I should have taken it to the entire board. I also agree that the first idea wasn't the greatest, and then I came up with the second proposal before hearing your first response. Someone said, let the elected officials do their job. If you guys were doing your job, the vacancy would have been filled months ago. I have no idea why my name keeps getting brought up, but you guys act like I'm some gosh dang mastermind pulling strings behind the curtain. I'm a 28-year-old full-time teacher, and I own a business. Seems to me you guys are dragging my name through the mud because I mentioned to someone that I might want to run for trustee one day because you guys won't do your job. So this is ridiculous, guys. I can guarantee you I never had that conversation. You better get your facts straight because that's slander in my eyes. I don't know if it is legally, but that's a joke. I never had that conversation, and you better cite your sources or something because that's ridiculous. And they're lying if you put a name on it. I would love for you to, because if you're going to publicly drag my name out there, then publicly put the person who said it. That's ridiculous. Good night.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night. Any more callers, George? Okay, none.
Never had that
One more.
conversation. You better get your facts straight because that's slander in my eyes. I don't know if it is
George,
legally.
getting feedback from Mr. Stump. Good evening. Go ahead and state your name and address.
They're lying if you put a name on it. I would love for you.
Hello? Do we have a caller there?
Ken Gagne, 8311 Lambert Street. I want to bring up the corner of Smith and Jackman. I think it's time that needs to be cleaned up. Barry Bushman, I was in the meeting when he recommended the contractor from Monroe. And I talked to Paul Peroni about that he was 2 dump trucks short of filling that hole in properly. And he said it didn't matter because the road commission was going to tear it out. Well, it didn't get tore out. It's tabled for 3 years. I think it's way past time to have the maintenance people clean that corner up. And there seems to be money there to clean it. There was extra money in the general fund. And as far as the sheriffs, I think they need to be more visible out on the road. I'm on the road a lot, and I don't see them enough. And they need to start writing some tickets, and maybe they'll slow the traffic down, and there'll be less accidents. And I think you need to put the meetings back in the boardroom. If you're not going to have the public there, the supervisors, the trustees, they all need to be in the boardroom, and maybe they'd be getting along a little better. There's an awful lot of bickering been going on here up the last 4 months. I think it's time for it to stop. Act like they should. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night. Comments from board members. Mr. Gore? Oh, we got one more call. Okay. Good evening. Go ahead and state your name and address and go ahead with your comment.
Jeff King, 692 Seminole Trail. Just wanted to call in, say thank you for the promotion from the board, from seasonal to part-time. I'm excited for the opportunity to continue to serve the community with all of our parks and buildings and facilities, and just look forward to working with the crew that is currently in and welcoming the new people that are coming in seasonally. Just that we would be a good, productive crew, and then we would serve the community well. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night. Any more callers, George? Okay. Mr. Gore?
So everybody have a great evening. Hopefully everybody will have a safe commute in the morning, depending on how the roads are.
I hate even hearing that. I'm supposed to be over this. Mr. Steiner?
Nothing this evening.
Okay, Mr. Bruning?
Nothing. Everyone have a good night. So far, the roads are good. I'm looking out my window. Nothing's sticking on the ground, so we'll see what comes later. But other than that, everyone have a good night.
Okay, Mr. Montre?
I'm going to echo Mr. Gagne's sentiment that everyone's welcome on up here in the boardroom. We got, and welcome in the meeting room next Tuesday for budget meetings, and say, go build a snowman.
Ms. Januzak,
I have nothing. Have a good evening.
Ms. Hirschberger?
A few things. Want to remind the residents that our next meeting will be held on May 11th due to the election on Tuesday, May 4th. The Township Clerk's Department will be open Saturday, May 1st from 8 to 4 for election only. Adopt the Road openings. There's still a few available, so if you want to work the Adopt the Road, please stop by the Clerk's Department. You can leave your information and we'll get that to the Road Commission. And then this Thursday, I'll be going to the high school to register seniors that morning. So hopefully the seniors will be able to vote in this May election coming up. And that's all I have.
Okay, so Smith and Jackman, there's been some discussion back and forth with the Road Commission about that. I wanted to make sure in the end that them cleaning up that corner, that we weren't 50-50. Because in the end, when it's all said and done and that corner's cleaned up, we needed to be 50-50. And I think with them cleaning it up, we won't be there. And I feel like they think that that's where we're going to be at. So I've got Mr. Goldsmith working with their lawyers from the Road Commission. Because quite honestly, if that's the case, I'll have our maintenance guys clean up the corner and they can cut us a check for $50,000 or $60,000 and we'll be even on the dollars. And then in 2023, we can start over and go the direction the board wants to go in. But I don't feel like them cleaning it up is an even deal. So Mr. Goldsmith, I don't know if you want to say any more about it, but he's working on it right now with the Road Commission's legal team.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, Mr. Supervisor, for the Road Commission, I just yesterday received a response to that. And so rather than to talk about that right now, I'm going to send you, everyone on the board, a copy of that response. And I think that will deserve meeting.
Okay, thank you. Meeting in person. I don't know if Mr. Goldsmith wants to keep speaking, but we basically have to set the room up now for social distancing, and that's how many people you can have. If we had a meeting, it would be very difficult if we had over like 8 more people in the audience. And if we did have more than 8 more people, we would have to adjourn and we couldn't do business. I mean, the chances of that happening are pretty good with the amount of people that attend our meetings. I want to meet in person too. I'm tired of these meetings. I'm tired of the thing going out. But if we get together and we've got township business to do and we have to close it because we have one extra person, I think we're going to look a lot just as dumb doing that. Am I right with that, Mr. Goldsmith?
Yes, you are. You have authority to conduct the meetings virtually as you are doing based upon a declaration by the Monroe County Board of Commissioners declaring an emergency, which is authorized by state law. And that declaration was adopted by the county board because of the spike in COVID cases, specifically in Monroe County, and the requirement that we socially distance in our meeting place by 6 feet, which would severely limit the number of people that can be there in the boardroom. And if we went over that number, we have to cancel the meeting because we can't move them to a different meeting place. They have to be in the place where the meeting is being conducted to participate. Otherwise, we'd be violating the Open Meetings Act. So you are correct.
Mm-hmm. I just want to say, I don't like to comment to public comments during it, but it's sad that some of the callers that call in meeting after meeting with their narratives, they're so far off with some of the things that are being said. And I hope the public knows that 90% of the things that are being said are just not true. So, we all have good hearts here. We all, I believe, want what's best for the community. And that's where I'm at. And I just speak the truth on what I feel. So I did meet with the Historical Society and spoke with Monroe Museum. There is no pictures of wood roofs, so I don't know what the resident was speaking of there. The Historical Society believes we should go with the metal roof. I do have a letter from them. It's basically just replacing the metal roof. Now, there are old pictures that show gutters, but they want to leave those off for now. And just go with the replacement of the metal roof. And then if we want to add gutters later on, we can, which that'll save money on the project. I emailed the whole board today, the American Rescue Plan. We need to start looking at that plan for funds. We have a few years to look at that. There's $3.1 million there, and there are restrictions. Mike Basonic has already started a plan for the county, but there are things in there, Mr. Bruning, like running infrastructure for cable. There's things that we can do to make an impact on this community. So I say, take a look at it. We need to maybe form a subcommittee and really get into some of these things and really go after that money. I definitely don't want to leave any money there that we could go after. I do want to congratulate Compelled Church for 25 years. They had a 25-year anniversary this past weekend. I'm getting a lot of calls about budget for this fiscal year. So I'm working with Stevenson's about doing a fall cleanup. So anybody that's calling or questioning about this year, it will be in the fall if the board approves what's in the budget. DDA, there's a lot going on in the DDA. You're going to see some major changes this next year. We did go with 3 speed signs. The Sheriff's Department's going to be working with the Road Commission and putting up 3 speed signs. One on Stearns by Taco Bell and then 2 on Secor. We are moving forward with a mast arm signal at the entrance of Quail Hollow, or not, well, I don't know if it's Quail Hollow, but right in front of the Kroger entrance and the entrance to that neighborhood. Is that Quail Hollow? I think it is, but I didn't know if it was a different name for the other side, but they're looking at a mast arm signal there. We have partnered with a contractor for lighting. We are moving forward with a festival on Halloween called the Bedford Boo Bash. It's going to be one large trick-or-treating event for the community. So a lot's happening in the DDA, a lot of good stuff. We have a great board, a lot of active members. So I'm excited for that. Other than that, a great meeting, and I just want to say God bless you all and have a great night. If anybody has nothing else to say, okay, we stand adjourned.